So today we will be starting the speaking section of Unit 6, which is great because we just finished our end of month exam speaking portion. So it would be great to kind of give an overview of that as well. So this is the last section of Unit 6, as it is for every unit that we study. So today is day 1. And before we begin, I just wanted to check in to see if you guys had any questions about the homework. And I know that your homework was just to catch up on your Cambridge 1 assignments. So I hope that you guys are taking the time to do that, because it's really, really important. And I think it's so helpful for you guys to practice your skills using those assignments. So please spend the time to complete those missing assignments, as I gave you the list of all the missing assignments that you have on Google Classroom, and also our group chat. So while you do that, I just wanted to check in if you had any questions about that. You guys are okay with that assignment? Yes? Okay. And I'll be going into the Cambridge 1 web to check on your progress. So I hope to see good responses in there from you guys and your missing assignments, okay? All right. So to start out the lesson today, I would like to ask you our warm-up question, which is another speaking warm-up question, as we always have at the beginning of every class. And for this class, the question is, if you could, would you rather live near the mountains or near the ocean or the sea? So if you could, would you rather live near the mountains or near the ocean / the sea? Okay, so take a few moments to think about this. Again, these questions are meant to be like low pressure and just to kind of get you thinking about the different vocabularies that we might encounter in our lesson. That's all. So all right. And I know Ken and Mickey, we've just finished our speaking test. But if you could just give me like a 1 or 2 sentences response, that would be great. Would you like to start, Ken?
Yes. So, like, if have to choose, I would choose living near the ocean because of 3 main reasons. The first is when living near the ocean, like we have like a variety of foods, like a variety of like fruits, and also on the like the environment around the sea is fresh and like cool. because of the wind. Yeah, and last one is in the summer we can go swimming in the sea or the river.
Mhm. Very nice. All very valid reasons. Thank you, Ken. Um, and Mary, we're just talking about our warm-up question, which is this one right here. Yeah, so, how about Mickey? What do you think about this question?
So I would rather to take a vacation or trip on the ocean instead of living there. So I would probably choose on the mountains.
Mm,
Because I probably get a good views to look over the like sightseeing
mhm,
around the mountains. And for me, living in the mountain is like kind of is the best place to live in the middle of the summers because summer is hot and
mm.
the mountain can and the mountain can be cool up there and that's all. Yeah, that's
Great.
all.
Thank you so much, Mickey. Um, and how about Mary? What do you think about this question?
Uh, yeah, if I could, I would rather live near the mountains because, I don't know swimming, so I cannot cope with just change in the sea or ocean, such as tsunamis. Uh, I, but I also want to challenge myself to exercise my body and love the nature's fresh air. And so living near the mountain is a good choice. And I can climb mountain, or walk around
Mm,
mountain, that
very,
all.
very nice. Thank you so much, Mary. Um, I would have to agree that I would also probably rather live near the mountains. But I love the sea, so who knows? Um, okay, now that we've done our warm up for today. Oh, and Mary, I was just telling Mickey and Ken that as I has told you guys before, I posted that list of all the missing assignments that you have on the Cambridge one. And so I hope that you will take the time to complete those assignments when you have the time. You don't have to do them all in one day, of course, but I just hope that you take the time to complete them because, as we go on every day of our lesson, like additional lesson, we'll have more assignments, right? So I don't want them to like pile up again. Because I know it can be very overwhelming. And it's super important that you do those assignments to practice your skills so that as we go through every lesson, you guys can practice them after the lesson because just having them for an hour and a half in class with me would probably not be enough to prepare you. Okay, you have to practice. So I'll be going in to check on your progress. So I hope that I'll be seeing some progress on your part. So I was just telling them that, and I wanted to make sure you hear that as well. Um, okay. Do you have any questions about that? Okay, great. And I'll go every time, like whenever you guys have any questions at all, any of the assignments, please feel free to reach out to me, shoot me a message, shoot me a comment on Google Classroom, whatever works for you, and I'll try my best to help you out. Okay. But you have to let me know in order for me to help you, because I'm always here ready to support you. All right. So for our class today, our target skill will be focused on practicing for you to be able to speak in detail about conservation and the environment. And also we'll practice some pronunciation of silent letters in words. Okay, so you will be prepared to speak about the topic of conservation and the environment, especially on part 3 of the exam, where you will have to speak on more global issues. And that's exactly what we did for our end of month exams. So you'll be able to look back at your answer and think about how you could make it better for next time if you might encounter this topic. Okay, so to start, let's go to page 123 of your textbook. Or 122, my bad. 122. Where we will look at these two beautiful pictures. Okay. And just kind of practice discussing some general questions about this topic that might appear on the speaking portion. Okay. So I would like for Mickey to brainstorm an answer for question 1. Ken will brainstorm an answer for question 2. And then Mary can brainstorm an answer for question 3. Okay? And it doesn't have to be a long, extensive answer, just a good amount, maybe like 3 to 5 sentences, good, concise sentences to discuss the topic. Okay? And so you'll take a few moments to think about this, write up a few sentences for your answer, and then we'll just share out with the class. All right. So let's start with Mickey. And while your classmates deliver their answers, I'd like for you to write down 2 things that you like about their answers. Okay, so take these down in your notes. 2 things that you like about their answers. Okay, and you'll just submit these notes at the end of class to Google Classroom for today's homework assignment, along with, well, the Cambridge 1 assignment, of course. But okay, so let's start with Mickey. Mickey, are you there? Yeah.
So when you visited, for example, like on the summer vacations, what types of view or place you have visit? For example, a lake, waterfalls, valleys, and that is take too long to take that. For example, like not really long, just around 3 to 4 hours, and that's all I have.
Okay. So did you have a specific place where you feel was the most beautiful place you've ever visited, like a specific place?
Yes, I have. Like the place is the Mok rivers in my province.
Mm,
So do I need to discuss it out?
that's all right. I just wanted to ask that because yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, now let's move on to Ken. Um, do you think that global pollution is a serious problem? And again, Mary and Mickey, I want you to write down 2 things you like about Ken's answer as she talks, okay? Yep, so Ken, you can go ahead.
Global pollution is a serious problem because it affects a lot on not only humans but also the other species on Earth's life, and also it endanger our like extinctions. Yes.
Great. Um, all right. And then with Mary, does the place where you live have a lot of pollution?
Yeah. Can you repeat your questions?
Oh, yeah. So it's just question 3. Does the place where you live have a lot of pollution?
Yeah. No. Then in my place is there no a lot of pollutions, but they is still exists. It come from the vehicle like emissions or construction sites and uh, consciousness from some people like littering. Yeah, Sarah.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Um, very nice. So hopefully that kind of helped you get in this habit of just kind of like taking a few moments to think about the question before you deliver them. And especially for the part 2 where you have that kind of space and that time for you to brainstorm your ideas, make sure you think thoroughly about what kinds of points you might mention. But remember to never write full sentences during your brainstorm time, okay? Because it will just really diverge your attention from being thorough with your answer to being like specific with one sentence that wouldn't be effective at all. Okay, so just a little reminder. Okay, we can move on to question 2 now. Exercise 2, my bad. Okay, so we will now complete this table with words from the box, and some words can go in both columns. But before we begin, let's go through each of these vocabulary first to make sure that you guys understand them and know how to pronounce them correctly. All right. So, Mickey, can you please read aloud the first column of vocabulary for us, please?
Acid rain, landslides, sinkholes.
Yes, great. Thank you, Mickey. Yep, so it's acid rain, landslides, and sinkholes. Okay. Then Ken, can you pronounce or speak aloud the second column for us, please?
Yeah, it's carbon monoxide, volcanic eruptions, and thunderstorm.
Mhm. Great. Thank you, Ken. Yep, so it's carbon monoxide, volcanic eruptions, and thunderstorms. Okay. And then Mary, can you please read aloud for us the third column, please?
Yeah, it drought, oil spill, and floods.
Great, thank you, Mary. Just one thing. The third word should be pronounced flood. Okay, flood. So it's in like a flood, like the word when you say like something something. Imagine it's like floods.
Yeah.
Okay, so drought, oil spills, and floods. Okay.
Yeah.
And as I repeat these words, hopefully you are also taking notes or, practicing without your mic on how I pronounce them so that just to make sure you get used to the pronunciation. All right. And then this column would be pronounced earthquakes, radiation leaks, and forest fires. And then this last column is tornadoes and tsunamis. Okay. Do you have any question about this? Any question about any of the meanings or any of the pronunciation you would like me to repeat?
Can you tell me the meaning of the tornadoes?
Of which one, sorry?
Of tornadoes.
Tornadoes? Yes. So first it's pronounced tornadoes. Okay, so the stress is placed on the na, so tornado. And this is often, how sometimes you see on the news if like people watch natural disaster happen and the thing where it has like this kind of spinning thing that goes down like that, like that. Sometimes that thing happens. Yeah, that's a tornado. Yeah, so it's basically like a violent, what would you call this? Maybe like a column of air kind of going around an area of land. And it's usually happen when a thunderstorm happens. So they kind of go hand in hand. Does that help? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about this list of vocabulary? Everyone good? Okay, great. All right. So now let's look at this table that we need to fill out using these vocabulary. So first, we have two columns, which is natural disasters and man-made pollution. Okay, so natural versus man-made. That's the two main differences. All right. And I actually don't like this distinction much, because sometimes even when we talk about natural disasters, there are like man-made problems or like human created problems that lead to worse natural disasters, right? So to say that natural disasters occur completely independent of human behavior is not correct, right? So that could be a thing, point that you could maybe touch on in your either your essay or your speaking, if you have to talk about natural disasters and the environment, is that, well, actually natural disasters don't occur completely independent of human behavior. Just a side note there. But yeah, in this case, let's just assume that they do, and that natural disasters is completely different from man-made pollution. So I would like for the column of vocabulary that you guys were responsible to pronounce. So this was Mickey, this was Ken, and this was Mary. From that column, put them in the appropriate side of the table, with just the words that you're responsible with. So these three different groups, and then we'll discuss which of these out of all of this, which side they should be categorized in. Okay, so just do the ones that you were responsible for. Okay, so take a few moments to do that. All right, how are we doing? Can we start to share out our answers? Yes, okay. Let's start with Mickey. Where did you place your three words?
On the asterisk, I would put it on the natural disaster,
Okay.
the landslides,
Mm-hmm.
is the man-made problems, and the sinkhole is the man-made problems. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Mickey. Okay. So when you look at this, Mary and Ken, do you agree with how Mickey organized these words, these three words?
I think acid rain will must be in the man-made pollution.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. And what do you think about this, Mary? Or
Uh,
you could say you don't know. If you don't know, it's okay.
yeah, I think as acid rain is in the column of man-made pollution.
Yes. So I would have to agree with Ken and Mary on this, that acid rain would have to go on this side as well. So because acid rain is often like due to human activities like burning fossil fuels, like excessively, or even like excessive electricity generation could even cause acid rain. That releases like all these activities that releases sulfur and nitrogen oxides into the atmosphere. That's how acid rain happens. So because it's so heavily influenced by human behavior, it would be considered man-made pollution. Okay. But with landslides and sinkholes, it's great that you put them in the man-made pollution side. But also they can be considered a part of the natural disasters as well. So these two words actually can be put on either side. And because both really goes hand in hand, so there isn't one dominant side for these two. Okay, great, thank you, Mickey. So now for Ken, how did you categorize your three words?
I put the carbon monoxide in the man-made pollution column, and volcanic eruption and thunderstorm in the natural disaster.
Okay. Thank you, Ken. Thunderstorms. All right. And Mary and Mickey, what do you think about this organization? Do you agree, disagree? Do you have a different answer? Do you agree with Ken's organization?
Yes.
Yes, Mary agrees. How about Mickey?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. Yes, so this is the correct organization. And yeah, so great job. How about Mary? What did you do with your three words?
Yeah. Drought and floods is in a natural disaster column. Yeah. And oil spill is an example of a man-made column.
So you said oil spill is in the man-made pollution.
It's an example. That's an example of exercise.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Oil spill is was an
Oh, yes.
example of.
Okay, yeah, right. Sorry. Yeah, so oil spill was put in man-made pollution. Already, so floods and drought you put in natural disasters, which is correct, but I could even argue that flood could be put in the man-made pollution as well. Okay, so I'll just put it up here. floods can be put in the man-made pollution as well. And that could be an argument you make if you ever encounter this on your speaking or writing assignment. Because flood can actually, and one of the things you could explain this is saying, because of increased deforestation, which is something humans do, right? Deforestation, cutting down trees in excessive amounts, removing forests, and stuff would increase the flooding, because it would increase an area's vulnerability without the trees and without like the natural forest or like vegetation around there. And so in addition to that, if like people pollute the waterways, right, of areas, that would also increase floods. So those are some kind of the reasons that I would also argue that they could be included in the man-made pollution. But aside from that, great job. So we know that earthquake is a natural disaster, as it is an example. But what about radiation leaks? Radiation leaks, do we think it's a man-made pollution or natural disaster? Is it natural
Yes,
disaster?
man-made.
Man-made? Great. Thank you, Ken. Yes, radiation leaks. It's human leaking them. So it's very much man-made. How about forest fires? Forest fires. What do we think?
I think it's both natural disaster and man-made pollution.
Yes, great. Yeah, so it could be put in either column. Yep. And then tornadoes, Mickey?
The tornado is the natural disaster.
Natural disaster. Nope, I spelled that wrong. Great. And then lastly, tsunamis would also be in the natural disasters, right? Great. This is not an exhaustive list of all the natural disasters and air pollution, of course, but it's a really good list to start with, especially if you have to ever talk about like consequences of climate change or like what are the effects of global climate and pollution and increasing environmental damage, stuff like that, as the potential prompt. Okay, great. Now let's move on to exercise 3 if you guys don't have any other questions about exercise 2. Okay, so exercise 3. Where we will complete the sentences using words from the table. Okay, so, and more than one answer may be possible. So I would like for Mary to do the first 2. And then Mickey do the 3 and 4, and then Ken can do 5 and 6. Okay, so take a few moments, fill them out, and then we'll discuss the answers together. Right. Okay. So let's begin to share out our answers. And then, yeah. Okay, so Mary, why don't you start us off with 1 and 2, and then you can read out the entire sentence, if you will, please.
Yeah, one is carbon monoxide. Humanity. Humanity is to blame for the increase in carbon monoxide emissions around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then number 2.
two, yeah. Two is a forest fire result in many homes and public buildings being burned down.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Yes, so humanity is to blame for the increase in carbon monoxide emissions. And you know it's carbon monoxide because of the word emissions, right? Out of all these words here, only carbon monoxide can actually be like emitted. So great job on that. And forest fires is correct. So great job. How about Mickey for 3 and 4, please?
Proper care of important facility will result in fewer radiation leaks, and we cannot really prevent earthquake, or you can replace as the tsunamis, but we can take steps to make buildings safer in case they happen.
Very nice job. Great. And for number 3, when you talk about proper care of facilities, radiation leaks is totally valid. Or you could also talk about oil spills when facilities are concerned. Okay. All right. Great job. And then lastly, Ken, for number 5 and 6, please.
Number 5 is earthquake.
Earthquake.
Number 6 is acid rain.
Okay. Yeah. So protection against acid rain will involve the cooperation of local people and local government. Okay. So yes, definitely earthquake could be an option for 5 and 6. Actually, any of these could go in number 5 and number 6, if I'm being honest. So yeah, it's up to you to, and actually number 5 and number 6 are really good sentence frames for you to use in your writing and also your reading as well. And number 4 is also another great sentence structure, sentence frame where you can fill in the blanks with like your own whatever you need to. So it's good to star these if you can in your notes to make sure you know that, okay, these are great ones for you to come back to if you ever need to, review for writing or speaking on this topic. Okay. Great. And especially, just one more thing, number 6 will give you a lot of leeway, like connection and link into talking about like, okay, what are some actions people can do to prevent these things? That was one of the questions we kind of talked about in our writing for the end of month exam, right? Like we can talk about like individual level, local, governmental level, right? Individual, like local level, stuff like that. So, yeah, I just wanted to put that note out there. Okay, now let's move on to exercise number 4. So this exercise just kind of asks which of these environmental factors are an especial threat where you live. And I know that you 3 all live in Gwangbin province, right? So think about this for a bit, and I'd be really interested in hearing your answers to see if you guys have the same answer or different answers or not. But yeah, so just kind of think about this for a bit. Choose 1 or 2 that you think is the biggest one. Yeah, and then it would just be interesting to kind of discuss this with you 3. Mhm. Oh, and freezing temperatures is a new one that we didn't look at in the last exercise, as well as volcanoes and chemical spills. Yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so Mickey, for you, what do you think is like one of the biggest threat where you live, environmental factors out of these?
On my hometown is Quang province.
Mm.
As you know, is like situated on the middle of Vietnam. So recent years, we have faced a lot of disaster, and the most special is floods.
Mm.
I remember that on the 2021, the big flood that is my city is Donghoi. The electronic things, um, the many people being homeless, and it destroy many many infrastructures. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, great. Thank you, Mickey. How about Ken? What do you think for where you live?
I have the same answer with Mickey. It's floods. Is Yeah, I say it is the annual like natural disaster. It happens every year from November to January in my province, and it caused like traffic congestions and also like many house and buildings are destroyed, and many people become homeless, and yeah, that's all.
Yep. Thank you for that, Ken. And how about you, Mary? Do you also have the same answer as classmates?
Yes. Yeah. I have the same answer with Nikki and Ken. Yeah.
So it's floods, right? Yeah. And it's interesting to see this because in our speaking test part 2, where I asked you to describe an environmental problem / event, none of you talked about the flooding that occurred in your hometown. So that was just interesting to me. because oftentimes I see people when they are asked about any topic, they would think about their immediate surroundings and like how that topic applies to like their own like living space. So I just found that interesting that you three, like none of you talked about this problem that happens in your own hometown. So I guess that just says that you are really aware of the different problems that occur. So that's great. But that's just another trick, I guess, for the speaking test, especially when you're given like really short amount of time, is that whatever topic you're given, think about how that applies to you, like, and your immediate like surrounding, right? So say, okay, describe a sporting event that you went to, right? So you could think about, okay, what is it, an event that happened at my school, or could even be like, oh, right, and a sporting event could even be like a casual football game that happens outside your house every day between your neighbors, you know? So that's just another trick to like get your thinking started quickly, is thinking about your immediate surrounding. So I just wanted to make that note. Okay. So hopefully you're taking notes of this, because it's something that I do a lot of times for these kinds of assessments too. So, all right. Now let's move on to exercise number 5 on the next page. Okay. Where we will look at pronunciation of some silent letters in English. All right. So some letters in English are silent, in quotation marks, silent when spoken, and or they could sound different from the spelling. And so it's I put a note here in your student notes that it's important that you are aware of the silent letters in order to correctly pronounce different vocabulary words and achieve a good score on the exam. Right? Pronunciation is always a factor when you do speaking, of course. And a lot of these words can be really, really tricky, especially if they're unfamiliar to you. Okay, so now I'll play an audio where they will give us some examples of these silent letters. So listen to them and try to practice pronouncing them as the audio goes on. Okay, so you don't have to open your mic or anything, but as you listen to it, try to pronounce it in your own space. Okay. All right, so this is the
Track 58.
first.
Scenic. Business. Track 3.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yep. So one more time.
Track 58. Scenic. Business.
All right. Yep. So one more time. It's scenic. So the C in here is very much silent. Right. So the C is very much silent. Scenic. And business. So the I is quite silent as well. So like business, right? Business, scenic. And this applies to the word, say, scene, right? A scene of something, scenic, scene. And then business. Let me think of another word. Business. Why can't I think of another word? Okay, but if I think of another word, I'll let you know. But yeah, be careful, because sometimes, oh, island is a very classic one. Island. And this is a very, very tricky one, because it's a word that you learn very early on if you learn English at any stage, but still like students mess this up a lot and they say Iceland or Island, stuff like that. But remember that it is island, right? Okay. Then in number 6, I'll play another audio where they will pronounce a bigger list of words. And then your job is to underline the letters in each word that are silent, or the words or the letters that sound different from the spelling. Okay? So same way we did in number 5 here, right? I kind of highlighted C in scenic and the I in business. You can do that. You can like circle them, underline them, cross them out, whatever works for you. And yeah, so try to pay attention to that. Okay. And actually, before we begin, take a look at these words and try your best to kind of predict from your knowledge what kind of letters might be silent. Okay, try to predict that, and it'd be interesting to see once I play the audio if you are correct or not. And if you are, then you're on a great track, and you know your pronunciation, so that's great. But I think it would be good to kind of reflect on your own prediction. So take a few moments to do that. Make your predictions, underline, circle, highlight, whatever works for you, the letter you think will be silent or that will sound different from the spelling. So make your predictions right now. And then I'll play the audio in a bit. Okay. And Nikki, if you can you please turn on your camera? It's just so that I know you're like still with the class. Okay. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so make predictions. I'll give you about like 30 more seconds, and then I'll play the audio. Okay. Are you guys ready for the audio? Yes. And again, as I play the audio and as you hear these pronunciations, I want you to practice like pronouncing them alongside the person, okay? Just to like get you used to like speaking them fast as much as possible. Okay, here is the audio.
Track 59. 1,
Calendar,
2,
foreigner,
3,
should,
4,
guest,
5,
autumn,
6,
honest,
7,
light,
8,
doubt,
9,
castle,
10.
yogurt.
All right, so that was the end of the audio. And I know it was quite fast, so I can play it one more time if you guys would like. Would you guys want to listen to that one more time? No? You guys are good? Okay. If you guys are good, then that's all right. Is there any specific ones that you would like to hear my pronunciation? Because I know these audios are often in a British accent, but I have a very much like American US accent. So sometimes these are a bit different from each other, but the way we pronounce the silent letter should still be the same. Right, so just let me know if you want me to go over any of these. But let's discuss the different letters. Okay, so for calendar, which letter did you guys? Okay, so how about, okay, let's do this. Mickey, let's share out what you did for the first three, and then we'll just go on from there. Ken will do the next three, and then Mary will do the last three. Okay, so Mickey, which letter did you underline or highlight in 1, 2, and 3? That are silent.
I highlight on the oranges.
You highlighted what? Sorry.
On the second word.
Yeah. For number 1, calendar, which letter did you underline or highlight?
It's the R.
R? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. How about number 2?
I might be wrong, but I highlight the I words.
I? Okay. How about number 3?
The O. The O word. The O word.
The O? Okay. And Mary and Ken, did you guys get similar answers or different ones? Mary and Ken?
I think in number 2, I underline the letter G, and number 3, I underline the letter L.
Mm-hmm. And how about Mary?
Yeah, I agree with Ken.
Yes. Yes, great job. I would have to agree with Ken and Mary on this one. Absolutely. In number 2 is the G, and then number 3 is the L. So in number 1, especially with a British accent, the R in general is often not as pronounced as in a US accent. So if I were to pronounce number 1, it would be calendar. So it would still be really light still, but especially in a British accent, you can totally tell that an R is kind of absent. But for number 2, it's a G definitely. So foreigner, there's no G at all, no harsh G sound. And number 3 is should, as if the L is in there. So great job. Okay, Ken, what about the next 3 words? What did you underline or highlight?
Number 4, I underline letter U.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, I underline the letter N. And 6 is H.
Yes, very, very nice. Yeah, and especially for number 5, it's because of that, it's number 6 too. The spelling could be really tricky, so just pay attention to that. And then Mary for the last three, please. Mary?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. Number 7. I underline it.
Mm.
Number 8. I don't underline B.
Mm-hmm.
And number 6. I underline T.
T.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just one thing for number 7. I would say to underline instead the letter G. Because when you because when you pronounce it, you shouldn't pronounce the harsh G sound. So it's not liked, but light, right? Light. So as if the G isn't there at all. It's very light without the harsh G, right? And number 8 is doubt
Yeah.
without the B. Number 9 is castle without the T. Great. And then lastly, in number 10, yogurt, the H should be underlined, right? Okay, great job. All right, let's move on to number 7, where we will looking at making time notes. And this is particular to task 2, of course, because you have that, again, 1-minute window to make notes before you have to deliver your answer. Okay, so and number 7 asks us to look at these two task cards. And Mary, could you please read aloud the task card A for us, please?
Yeah. 8. Describe a place in your country that is famous for its natural beauty. You should say where that place is, what kind of place it is, what makes it beautiful, and explain why this place is famous in your country.
All right, thank you. And then can I have Nikki to pronounce or read aloud task card B for us, please?
Describe a place of natural beauty that you have visited. You should say when you visit this place, what kind of scenic features that place had, what you remember most about the place, and explain whether you would like to visit the place.
Again, right? Yeah. Thank you, Mickey. Yeah, so, but just a side note that this is pronounced scenic, right? As we looked at earlier. Scenic. Like the word scene, but instead of seen as a noun, scenic is the adjective form. Okay, great. So those are the two task cards that we're presented with, in which both ask us to describe a place, right? A place. A place, that is the key word here. A place. And both ask about the natural beauty. Okay. And so number 8 asks us a few questions about these two task cards. So number 1, which points in the tasks require more information? So which part of the question require the most elaboration, I guess? When you look at these task cards, what would you focus most of your time on? And this is often, referring to this part of the task card. So among these requirements, which part would you, when you look at this, when you approach this, which part would you spend the most time on? What do you say about this? Any opinions? So let's start with A first, right? You're asked to describe a place in your country that is famous for its natural beauty. All right. So when you are describing that place, which part do you think of this, or this? So where, what, so what kind and what mix and why? What of those four will require the most amount of elaboration? And there can be more than one, of course. What do you think? Or not what you think, but what would you do?
I think in the task A is like the third question.
So what makes it beautiful, right? Yeah.
And in B
yeah.
is I think it's the second one in B.
Number one.
The second.
The second one. Okay. All right. Yes. So for A, I completely agree that you should spend a lot of time, a good portion of time on number three. So what makes it beautiful, right? Because that is one of the main points of the task card. A place that is famous for the natural beauty. So of course you have to elaborate. Why do you think it's beautiful? If you deem it beautiful, you have to elaborate on what makes it beautiful. That is why, because it's directly related to the task card, right? But also on that note, I would also say that you should spend a good amount of time on this why question. Why this place is famous in your country. Why? Why would I say so? Because that is also a second part of the task card saying, so describe a place in your country that is famous. So after you've explained, okay, why you think it's beautiful, you have to also explain what makes it famous. So what makes it beautiful and why it would be famous, right? And of course, where that place is probably one sentence. What kind of place it is probably one sentence, maximum two. Say if it's a waterfall, if it's a mountain, right? But what makes it beautiful and why should always receive more attention, right? And then in B, so Ken says you should spend the most time on the second question. What kind of scenic features the place had? But Mary and Mickey, what would you do? What would you say for this task card? Mary, what would you say for this?
I think it has questions. What you remember most about the place?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Mickey, what about you?
I have the same with Mary.
Mary? Okay. Yes, I would say that I agree with Mary and Mickey on this one, that you should spend the larger portion of your time on focusing on question 3 here. Why? Because in the task card, it mentions a place that you have visited, So, difference from task A, it's asked for a place in your country in general, right? Doesn't have to be somewhere you've visited. But task B emphasizes on a place that you have physically been there. You have physically witnessed the beauty, right? So what kind of scenic features the place had can be described as some place that you have never been to, right? It could be that you looked at a picture or you saw it on television. You could also describe the scenic features, but what you remember most about the place relates directly to the visiting part of the task card, right? And you should spend a larger amount of portion on that one because it directly and mostly relates to the task, like the main question, right? And that's why I would say the third question would be more important than the second question. And of course, scenic features are included in what you remember about the place, right? Because when you remember something, you have to remember about what it looks like and what are the important parts of it. But also, this question right here, whether you would like to visit the place again, is also part that I would recommend you spend more than 2 sentences on. Maybe not as much as number 3, but definitely a good part of it, because again, it directly relates to the visiting part, and it talks about your impression, right? Your impression of the place. And so you could, when you talk about these, you could touch on that natural beauty part, right? So is it so beautiful that it captures your interest so much that you would like to visit it again? Is it so magnificent, or is it not as magnificent? And this would give you a lot of room to even talk about, like, okay, maybe it's a place that you've seen online before, you've seen in the news before. It gives you space to talk about, okay, maybe it's not as like beautiful as they say it is. Maybe you felt really underwhelmed by what it actually looks like in real life, right? So it gives you a place for like contrasting what your expectations were and what is not. You see what I'm talking about? So basically deciding what is important about the task card is really helpful for you to plan your answer. Okay, then number 2, ask what kind of information you will need for each point. So, of course, we've talked about this. Where that place is requires what? A name, right? A name. What kind of place it is? Again, it should be a noun, right? Waterfall, mountain. Then what makes it beautiful? You should use lots of adjectives, right? Adjectives, of course. Be descriptive, be thorough with your explanation. And then why this place is famous, of course, reasons, right? Why, like what in your experience, right? Experience. What makes it famous? And for a B, right? When you visited the place, of course, it should be like a time or like a date. What kind of scenic features? Nouns. What you remember most about the place. It should be like using a lot of adjectives, and a lot of like memory and past, like past impressions, right? And then, right, whether you would like to visit again, right? Your impression, your reasons, etc. Okay. And then number 3 asks, how many examples will you need for each point? And this is important because giving efficient examples is super, super important for your marker to determine whether or not you have sufficiently supported your claims enough, right? So for where that place is, probably like 1, of course, right? 1 specific one. When, wait, what kind of place? It's just 1, right? And then what makes it beautiful? I would say give around 2 or 3. 2 or 3, maybe 4, but only do 4 if you feel extremely confident about your time management. Okay, and if you feel really good about not going over time, and still saving time for the why question, which is also important. And so, but the why, obviously, as we said, it's still important, but not as important as the what makes it beautiful. So maybe like 1 or preferably 2 reasons, right? And similarly, when you visited, 1, right? What kind of scenic features, probably like 1, 2, probably like 2. What you remember most, 2 to 3. Again, 4 if you feel extremely confident about your time management. And then the last one is probably 2 reasons. Okay, 2 to 3. Okay. And then number 4 asks, what tense will you need for each point? Okay, this is really, really important because this is one of the common errors that all 3 of you make. I noticed that you make on your speaking and writing portion as well. And it's really, really important because once you decide to commit to one tense, that tense will determine a big portion of your grammar marks, right? Because when you commit to one tense, you have to keep it consistent throughout your answer. So identifying the correct tense is super duper duper important to make sure that your grammar marks achieve a high like range, right? So pay close attention to this. So in task A, all of these should be described in the present tense. Okay? Everything should be described in the present tense because you are describing a place that is existing, right? But in task B, I would recommend when, here, so when 1 and 2, when you visited and what kind it had, what do you think should be the tense here? So when you visited and the kind of features the place had. Should be the present tense. Do you think? Should it be the present tense? No, right? When you visited, it already happened, right? It's not a present occurrence. So it should be in the past tense, right? And especially for number 2 as well. Number 2 could also use past continuous as well, or past tense, or both works. And then number 3 and number 4, so these 2 right here could be used in the present. And of course, number 4, especially present conditional. All right. Does this make sense, everyone? Do you understand why each of these would have the tense that they do? Yes? Okay, great. And so this is something I would encourage you practice. When you look at a task card immediately, one of the first things you should think about, what tense do I use? Because often grammar is something that I don't really like to talk about a lot because I would rather prioritize how well you express your ideas and how well you support your claims. But still, it's undeniable that grammar is a big part of your marks. And you should not neglect it, of course. And so I would suggest the most important things it's described. When you look at a task card, decide what is the most important part of this task card and what tense should you use. Then, so order 1, 1, think about the examples, and then finally think about what kind of information. So that would the order I would look at. Right? 1, 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. So that is it for today's lesson. And